Hey, L-Dog here, and bringing you another replay commentary of Bisu and Fantasy. This replay I pulled off Gosu Gamers today, and it looks like it actually just got uploaded to the site a few hours ago, but already getting pretty good reviews. So I'm hoping this will be a good one. Obviously, Bisu is playing as the Protoss here, as the red Protoss, and Fantasy is playing as the brown Terran. The map is Heartbreak Ridge, which as I understand, is a newer map and one that I'm not familiar with. Unfortunately, I'm not familiar with a lot of these newer various league maps and non-official Blizzard maps, because when I was really playing frequently back in the day, I was pretty much Lost Temple for everything, or maybe like the different ladder maps. But these days, you're seeing a lot of these newer league maps and such every season, so it's hard to keep up. What I am seeing right away is it looks like Fantasy has actually sent an SCV out early across the map to Bisu's base. Bisu's trying to go ahead and get his probe by, and Fantasy actually manages to out micro the probe with his SCV and take out that SCV or that probe early. So a nice early advantage for Fantasy here. And just looking at this map, it looks like it's potentially a two-player map. I see a starting position on the west edge of the map and the east edge of the map, so I'm assuming they know exactly where to scout right away. And I'm expecting to see this SCV kind of going back and forth around the base of Bisu here. Don't know why he's harvesting the minerals here. There's all kinds of strategies that have been sort of developed over the last few years that are now commonplace, but unfortunately ones that I've missed not playing frequently and not hanging out in the popular channels and such, and playing League and stuff over the past few years. So a lot of the stuff that I miss, I apologize for, but I try to catch what I can in these replays. As these two are building up here, they're both kind of going for the standard build. It looks like Fantasy is potentially walling in this choke point. Looks like the choke points are the only access points to the bases potentially. And on the other side of the map, Bisu is doing a standard sort of Protoss versus Terran build as well, where he's going for that early gas and throwing up that core. So pretty standard stuff on the Protoss side here. Remember that Bisu did lose that early probe, so that put him at a slight economic disadvantage early on, and he's in a little bit of trouble with this scouting probe now. He manages to sneak it out before the factory goes up as part of the wall in here, but it looks like Fantasy's not having that. He's going to send that first Marine out after that probe, and it looks like he might get that probe. Just one more shot. Oh, and it looks like Bisu manages to sneak that probe out, but just barely. So Fantasy will go ahead and run his Marine back to his base here and continue to build his factory. On the other side of the map here, looks like Bisu's throwing up his second gate, and I'm expecting to see Dragoons out of both of these gateways. It looks like Singularity Charge is already researching here at the Cybernetics core, so probably going to go straight Dragoons, and I expect to see a robotics facility here shortly for potentially Reaver harass and or observers to look out for those mines. So we'll see what tech Protoss decides to go. Looks like he's going to hide it up in the upper part of his base here and see if he can avoid getting scanned, so Terran won't know what his tech tree looks like. Back at the Terran base, looks like Terran's going for a relatively fast second command center, which he's going to float, building it in his base. And the first Dragoon of Bisu is actually already here at the Terran base, so an early harass going on, and Terran has to abandon any plans he may have had for vultures or something like that and go ahead and pump out that first tank in order to help ward off this initial Dragoon here. And it looks like there's going to be two more Dragoons coming across the map from Bisu here, so the tank's going to probably come out just in time, but the Singularity Charge may actually complete just in time to be able to make these Dragoons continue to be effective here. So it looks like Siege Mode is researching, and we're almost halfway done with that, though. So Fantasy will be able to defend this, but not before some harassment from Bisu. And going to be close whether that factory goes down or not here. It's going to get repaired by, looks like 3 or 4 SCVs, but he's going to lose at least 1 SCV there. The factory is on fire, but siege mode is just about done researching, so it looks like he is going to be able to throw these tanks out in siege mode here and go ahead and defend against this early dragoon rush here. So 5 dragoons, but it's not going to be enough because, as we know, siege tanks versus dragoons is no thanks. So in the meantime, Fantasy's going to go ahead and send out that command center and throw it up at, I guess, what looks to be the natural here, just right outside this choke point. Real interesting choke point here. Sort of an alternative to a ramp on a map, one that I don't see very often. I've seen like secondary choke points to a base, but I haven't seen a choke point being sort of the primary entrance to the base. So it's kind of a cool, I don't know, new map style here, and it allows with this ramp right outside the choke point to park, you know, various siege units and so forth up here on the cliffs. So Fantasy did throw up that command center at his natural there, so he's going to be harvesting off of 2 bases, and it looks like Bisu just threw those pylons down at the edge of his base to go ahead and scout for incoming drops rather than to hide his tech. But he did finally throw up that robotics facility as well as his second nexus at his natural as well. So we'll expect to see probably an observatory. Yeah, an observatory up here. Interesting position considering he stuck his drone in here. He's going to have to do something to get that drone out since it already has minerals in its hand. I don't know if he can sneak it through. But he will be producing observers in just a moment to counter any spider mines and such that Fantasy may be throwing down. And then also, it looks like Terran's throwing up a second expansion already at his, I don't know, I guess you'd call that the second natural here, but he's throwing up another nexus already. And it looks like he's going to shore it up with a pylon wall with a couple dragoons behind it. So that will easily defend against any vulture harass and so forth at that base. So a smart choice here. And it's interesting. It looks like there's a little mineral patch that blocks access from that second natural back to the main there, or several mineral patches. I'm not exactly sure what that is. 0 minerals. But he's attacking it from both sides there with his probe. So back at Fantasy's base, it looks like he's hitting up his second natural as well. The command center going up directly instead of trying to float it. Makes sense. Looks like he may be walling it in a little bit. It's kind of a weird spot to build those supply depots, but I guess he's just he might be adding his racks here to help shore that up. Both players taking a while to kind of build up here. This is a little bit abnormal to see in this level of play, having this much build up and this little sort of harassment early on. Both kind of taking their time and getting themselves situated here, which is going to make for an interesting fight in a few minutes, I think. So you'll notice that Bisu is just throwing up gas at his natural, so he's actually not harvesting a lot of gas right now. I would imagine I would see more sort of zealots and other non-gas units here, but I guess he's really just spending most of his minerals building up his economy in his second and third bases right now. So not seeing a lot from Bisu in terms of, you know, unique units or anything like that. We just see most of the initial dragoons that he built, and it looks like he's now starting to crank zealots from his 4 gateways. On the side of Fantasy, we are seeing the second natural starting to harvest here, and sort of we got about 4 siege tanks. Looks like he's pumping out of 2 factories right now, which is not a lot. I'd expect to see some more factories going up soon. And he's throwing up a starport on the top of his ramp there. So what that means is, since that ramp is blocked with that siege tank, the Protoss player isn't going to be able to see that starport with any of his ground-based units. So he'll have to sneak an observer into that particular area if he wants to see that the Terran is going Stargate tech. Because there's a observer down here, but it's not going to be able to see that starport. So this could lead to an interesting surprise if he plans on building anything other than science vessels there. So kind of